So, we've been analyzing the idea that um, if countries specialize according to absolute advantage, there are gains in world output, and we have told our story a little informally with a simple example in which we have shown that basically by freeing labor from sectors where we have an absolute disadvantage, we can and allocating it to sectors where we have an absolute advantage, we can um, achieve higher output in the world. And we have seen that this desirable situation can be achieved by two simple means. One is let's have competitive markets, so firms make zero profit. Imagine if they could make a profit, then other firms will try to enter in that market, and the same reasoning can be made for a loss, as you probably know from your introduction to economics class. We also need free trade. Why? Because under free trade, consumers will try to buy goods where they are the cheapest. And in our simple example, we have seen that if consumers buy soybeans from country A, which has an absolute advantage at producing soybeans, and buy textiles from country B, then we reach exactly that situation which is desirable, in which country A is specialized in producing soybeans, and country B is specialized in producing textiles. So this was a kind of a revolutionary narrative by Adam Smith in the 1700s, because you have to think, the idea that was prevalent at the time was the idea of mercantilism, in which basically um, trade was good only if I was exporting, not if I was importing anything. Notice here with Adam Smith and with the absolute advantage idea, we are importing a lot. Like, we're definitely exporting the good in which we have our absolute advantage, but we're importing we have given up the production of one good, but we still want to consume it, and so we're going to import it from the other country. This theory is silent um, where um, productivity differences. So we have seen that countries have differences here in the amount of labor that is necessary to produce one good. This theory doesn't tell us where these differences are coming from. We can make some guesses of where they might be coming from. For agriculture, one very important factor is climate, and that's something that is given and we can't really change in the short run, at least. So, some countries have very nice Mediterranean weather, like California or like Italy, and so they will be very productive at making tomatoes and fruit. Other areas, other countries, say Sweden or Norway or Canada, might have an agriculture that is not as productive, at least for certain goods. Other reasons could be technological advancements, other reasons could be legislation. Fine, but so this gives us, one good reason for opening up to trade, to exploit these efficiency advantages from specialization. However, probably some of you are already wondering what happens when one country has all the absolute advantages. What do I mean by that? Well, imagine that you are a super technological power like the United States. The United States are extremely productive at making computers, say, think about Silicon Valley, which is just a few miles from here, where all the microprocessors and the iPhone are invented. The United States clearly are extremely productive at producing these goods that have a very high content of technology and that are on the technological frontier in a sense. But then we also think about agriculture, say, for example, goods like corn and wheat. Well, the United States are also an extremely large country with a lot of fertile land, especially in the Midwest and in the South, where it's extremely productive to produce corn, to produce wheat, and other agricultural goods. Imagine that you are a country like Greece or Italy. Is it ever convenient for countries that don't have either an absolute advantage at computers or an absolute advantage at agriculture to trade with the United States? So, with a country that might have an absolute advantage at both goods, in our simple example. Notice similar narratives can be made with China. One of the um, elements of the quote that I reported in the first or second slides of this lecture was about the fact that there's a sense that the United States are not exporting anything to China. Whether that's true or not, uh, the issue that seems to be at stake here is that there's the perception that China is more productive, both at making cars, say, and at making T-shirts and at making many goods. So, how do we exploit our advantage if, say, there are very large countries with a lot of labor and very cheap labor um, that can produce multiple goods? So this is exactly what we are going to investigate in the second part of this lecture, which is going to be about comparative advantage.